live stream where we come together as a photography community and talk about photography, this thing that we love. For many of us, it's our passion, like myself. And, I wanted to apologize for last week. I didn't really stream last week. I just kind of broke down because of the passing of Ben. It kind of hit me hard that morning because I was trying to put together a montage or something of my friendship with Ben. And for those of you that don't know Ben, Ben Chappelle, he's has a YouTube channel, the Narrowband channel, and he passed away from cancer at a very young age. I think it was in his 30s. And more recently, the his family posted a video of the service, um, and the pastor's perspective or relationship with Ben also. And if you knew Ben at all, or like the work that he did, you can kind of get some insights there into what drove him from that video. But it's more of just thought it was a really nice gesture for them to post a final video, unlike some other channels that just disappear, and I don't know what happened. And a lot of my viewers I know are much older, and I stop hearing from them time to time. And I always wonder what happened to them. But that's life, right? We have to go through that. And hey, I had a hard time. I can talk about it today now because I've had a little more time to kind of just chill, on it. But he was a good friend of mine, and he was a great photographer. He taught me everything I know about astrophotography. And I used to go up to his house every year. He lived about 3 hours from me, and spend the weekend, doing astro and learning new things. And I still have some gear that I purchased that I was planning to take up with me this year and learn how to use. But that's just uh, not going to happen this year. So, but he was a great guy, huge, huge OM System Olympus fan. He had a tremendous collection of gear, and was a great inspiration to me, and I'm sure many of you that knew him or knew him through his channel. And I put a link down below to his wife set up a GoFundMe page to help them through this time, because he was the sole income earner in the home with 4 kids. And I remember, uh, because he would call me, not every month, but we talked on a regular basis and by phone. And we always talked about camera gear. And I'll tell you, the last thing we really talked about at any length, photography related, was the Fujifilm X half. And he thought that was a great camera, and not one that he would buy, but he thought it was a camera that a lot of people would really like and what people were looking for. And this conversation's come up, in the photography community a lot about going for smaller, lighter weight cameras and bringing those back mainstream because they've kind of disappeared with the smartphone, right? Uh, and you know, so that was kind of last conversation we had. So I just thought I'd share that with you. And what I remember most about our phone conversations was he usually called me on his way home from the gym or from work, whenever he was heading home, he would give me a call because it was about a half hour drive, so we'd have like a half hour conversation. And honestly, what I remember most about all the conversations was at the end, uh, when he got home, I could always hear his kids so excited to see him when he came home. They all come running up and asking him questions or, uh, tell him to come look at this or let's go do that. I could always hear them, and I said, "Okay, okay, man, you got to go. You got to go spend time with your family." So he was a great dad, great photographer, and a great friend to me. So I'm gonna kind of stop there because if we keep going, I'm gonna lose it. Yes. But yeah, so I last couple of weeks I've been trying to go out and do some photography, and uh I've been shooting with I decided to go out and kind of shoot with different cameras this week because I'm always going out with my OM3. That is my camera of choice, and the Micro Four Thirds system in general is my system of choice for everything, both personal and for my professional work when I do my architectural photography and my event photography. And uh but I do enjoy using other camera systems time to time. And I shot with my Leica Deluxe 8, which hasn't gone out hardly at all. None of these cameras have hardly gone out at all. My Sony A7R5 and my Fujifilm X-H2. And honestly, the what impresses me the most about each camera is I really love. Let me just go get them. I have two here. I like them. I'll start with the smallest one because this is kind of uh this is a great camera. It's now I'll bottom line this for you. It's no better than the LX100 Mark II, okay? In terms of just in all practical terms, right? The only significant improvement that I think people will appreciate about this that they hated about the LX102 is the EVF. It's now a nice OLED display, 2.36 million dot, so it's very crisp. Much more what we're used to in cameras of this, in this day and age. But really, other than that, the menu system is nice. It's very Leica. But in all practical terms, other than the EVF, this is really no better than the LX100 Mark II. But cameras are more than just specs, right? They have to, for enthusiasts like many of us here, uh, it's nice to have a camera that we enjoy looking at, aesthetically pleasing, is uh practical, like this being very small, compact, very capable, and the kind of camera you can take anywhere. I saw a video last week called cup holder cameras, cameras that you kind of fit in the cup holder of your car. This is one. I kind of laugh because I do that. I stick my smaller cameras in the cup holder because these bigger ones like these behind me don't fit. But this one fits easily in the cup holder. Uh, my OM3 with a 12 to 45, even the 12 to 40 Pro, that fit right in the cup holder of my car perfectly, and I could close the top on it, so it's very discreet. I didn't leave it in the car because you don't want heat on your cameras, but and this is back in stock in B&H. I have a generic B&H link down below. If the camera like this or anything interests you from B&H, you can support my channel here through using my affiliate links down below. But uh, yeah, this comes in and out of stock every 6 months, it seems, since it came out. Like it'll be in stock for like a week and then it's sold out. And then it's like 6 months later, they'll get another batch in. So these are relatively hard to get at list price, and the price has gone up. I got mine back when it was still like 15.95. Now it's 19.95 or whatever. But let me show you a couple images from this. They're on my Flickr page. Um, but like this one, let's see. No, that's the OM3. This is one from the Leica Deluxe 8 here, and I think it creates beautiful images. Same as the LX100 Mark II. So if you want to save like 60 or 70% and get the same image quality, you can get the LX100 Mark II from Panasonic. I have both cameras, by the way. But yeah, it just creates beautiful images. I love the color. This is processed, of course, and I've adjusted the color profile a little. But the files are very easy to work with, very easy to get the colors that I want, and great dynamic range. I mean, it's a fantastic camera. It uses a micro four thirds sensor. The lens I find is very sharp. I give a lot of credit to DxO for that because of their optics module, which is my favorite photo editing software. And you can zoom in on these and fine print if you want, or pixel peep. You can even download the full resolution image if you want over here. And if you want, for personal use, I mean, don't download my image and sell them, right? That would be wrong. But for personal use, you're welcome to download these and check them out. This couple of my friends in the photo club uh, that I just grabbed a quick snapshot. The face detect worked fine, great detail. Uh, really, I have no complaints. And then this is a shot from the OM3 with the 12 to 45 Pro. No, this is with the 40 to 150 kit lens. I'll come back to this, but this 40 to 150 kit lens is amazing. I mean, the detail that you get out of this lens with any of the Micro Four Thirds camera is just stellar. So uh, yeah, so I think really people are saying, why don't they make a micro, like a compact camera? And I'm like, Leica just did. They had the Deluxe 8. You can, if you can get one, you can get a nice compact fixed lens camera with a great zoom. I think the lens is fantastic in it. It's very fast at f1.7. Um, no complaints at all. And I bought this nice little case for it, half case with a minuscule grip. You just need a little bit so that when you're just holding the camera, you can grab it and shoot very quickly. And I got one of these little mini Arca Swiss plates on it. Uh, so if I do want to mount it on a tripod for whatever reason, which is rare, this is mostly just hangs around my neck for snapshots. So it's either this or the LX100 Mark II. They're virtually identical, shape, size, everything. I have a half leather case on this one also, with just a minuscule bump here for a little bit extra grip, and again a mini Arca Swiss plate for tripod use. Same lens, same sensor. Maybe I can't even tell any difference in the images straight out of camera. So basically, probably the same processor. And autofocus seems identical in terms of performance. There might be a slight improvement here in tracking, like if you like to use the point at this and then track it and take a picture, but let's just say it's not. Let's just say they're equal. Um, because when you have to work hard on the autofocus to get it to do what you want, um, you might as well not have that feature, you know. And then on the back, not another significant difference with this LX100 Mark II is a lot more buttons and dials. So it's slightly more tactile in terms of accessing features and navigating things. But this was a vanity purchase. I just like the styling, and I've always wanted a Leica, and this was one of the few times I could actually get one. So uh, I'm very very happy with this. I would say the only thing I don't get why people love this little switch. Like our friend over there at two cameras or 1 month, two cameras. She loves this little switch on her LX5 and other cameras that have this. Um, I don't get it. I'd rather just get a full sensor image and then crop it in post, or just have in-camera cropping. Uh, if I want to just shoot JPEGs. But anyway, little things. I could go on, a couple hours about either one of these cameras. And the Panasonic has more features like focus stacking and a few other things. So if you're a more pragmatic person and you like the tactile function and feel and uh, want a small compact camera, the LX100 Mark II makes a lot of sense because you can get those for around 800 still. The Leica Deluxe 8 is simply if you prefer, like if you can't deal with the EVF, this has the LX100 Mark II has sort of that tearing EVF that a lot of people have a problem with. It never bothered me. I never noticed it until somebody mentioned it, and I said, "Oh, when you're panning and stuff, you can kind of see it tearing a little bit." I'm like, "Really?" I looked. I said, "Oh yeah, I see that." So it never bothered me, but this eliminates that problem altogether. It adds USB-C for charging, um, which I don't know, whoop-de-doo. To me, it doesn't matter what the port is. If I want to charge it in camera or offload the images, there's really no difference between the two in terms of speed and charging that I could tell. It's just the standard now, right? And one of the main things I like about this is you do have the option for flash here, and it's a leaf shutter, so you get a little faster sync speeds, which I guess can be useful if this is like your only camera, but for a lot of us, this is like a secondary type camera, right? Our everyday camera. It's another way of looking at it. Um, so yeah, there's that. So that's why I love these cameras. I love this Leica. I love the menu system and the look and feel of this, and how it makes me feel when I have this. Um, I don't care if anybody else knows this is a Leica or not, but I know what it is, and even though it probably comes right off the same factory line as the LX100 Mark II used to, because there's a lot of tooling and machinery that goes into making cameras that are are very unique, and it's very unlikely Leica set up their manufacturing process to produce this. They probably just asked Panasonic, make these design changes within the limits of your manufacturing molds and programming that you have there, and et cetera, et cetera. I like it, and it makes me happy, and that's one of the really something I learned from many of you, including Marco. If it brings you a little bit of happiness and it's within your budget, just get it. None of us know how long we have on this earth, and you might as well, if you can, right? Don't go crazy and go bankrupt, okay? But if it's within your means and it can bring you a little bit of happiness, it's okay. Just buy it, you know? Um, and and in my own family, my sister is that way, her and her husband, they don't they don't hesitate to get things that they think will make them and their family happy. Um, so uh, they have a lot of toys. They have a pretty good budget that they can get a lot of toys. It's nice to have someone in the family that can have these nice things. But there's that. And oh, I see Walter's here. I'm going to see Walter later. We're going out to lunch with Walter and his wife. So I will see you guys soon in a couple hours. Yeah, actually, right? And I had a great lunch or breakfast yesterday. I see Robert's here. Robert, thank you again for breakfast. I really appreciate that. Uh, I'm very lucky that I have such a great friends in the community and people that a lot of new friends since being a member of the photo club. Uh, I'm very grateful for that. So, um, you know, and that's one of the things is really appreciate the not only the things you have, right, that you get for yourself, but the people in your life. Try to appreciate, uh, your friends and family again, because it's really the most important things in life, more important than just, junk like, this is just junk, right? Compared to relative to friends and family in your life. So that said, I don't want to get all, uh, emotional about it, but Let me check in the chat here. I see Roger's here. Good to see you, Roger. I got your email. I will forward that to Emily. And good morning, Paul. Good morning, Jeff. Brian, good to see you. Um, and Contrail, always good to see you. Walter, of course. George looks like he might have a question. See if I can get to that. Says, good morning. On the EM1, trying to use Live View Boost for shooting in a dark situation, but the refresh rate is so slow, making it almost impossible. So a better option than Live View uh, is S S what's it called? Simulated Optical Viewfinder. I think it's called SVF. So enable that instead. It won't brighten the image quite as much as Live View Boost, because the way Live View Boost works, as you can see from using it, it changes the refresh rate on the sensor so it can gather more light. Uh, so try using Simulated Optical Viewfinder. It maintains the refresh rate, uh, so it's not going to get as bright as Live Boost, but it'll certainly be a lot better up to a certain point, right? That point being when you can't see anything through the EVF. So try simulated optical viewfinder instead, and that should make a difference. And there's two modes of live view boost, modes 1 and 2. Just choose live one. That's going to be the best of the two. Because it's going to try and maintain a faster refresh rate. Whereas Live View Boost 2 will almost always go into a very slow refresh rate. It also applies, art filters and whatever else you're doing. It applies more processing to the image. Whereas Live View Boost 1 is minimizes that and tries to emphasize refresh rate. But Simulated Optical Viewfinder is even more so. Okay. Um, okay, so the Fuji, uh, you may have seen, Maddie did a great video on this. I was supposed to do a video on this on launch day. I couldn't do it. But this flash is not bad. I'll try and do the video later today and publish it tonight or tomorrow. But if you want to know about this flash now, I know Maddie Salanto has a great video on this flash that you can check out. Uh, but this is the Fujifilm X-H2, and the image quality is awesome. It really good resolution. The new updated DxO now can support this directly with the X-Trans sensor, whereas previously it was kind of just using a generic demosaicing. But now they've optimized it even more, and I'm getting really amazing quality out of this camera now. Because image quality is a combination of the camera itself and the demosaicing and raw editing software that you use. But I did a few images with this week, uh, mostly because I had to review this flash, right? But and I got the full trinity of lenses that I want for this: my 23 1.4, 33 1.4, and 56 1.4. And then the kit lens, and then I also have the 55 to 200. I wanted the 70 to 200 back when I bought this camera, but it was hard to get at the time. And ultimately, I decided not to wait for it and just get the 55 to 200 because it's brighter, right? This is a 3.5 to 4.8. So it's a pretty bright lens. It's definitely not as sharp, though. I can see a tiny bit of more softness in this lens uh, compared to other samples that I've seen online, but that's okay. I'm not too worried about it because I'm not using this for sports action wildlife, this camera. I did try to do some yesterday, some wildlife that was just some ducks swimming in the water. Man, it was let me just tilt this a little bit. It was it was hurting, and I just updated to the latest firmware on this because I hadn't updated the firmware since I bought the camera 2 years ago. I think it's been almost exactly 2 years. So I said, it's been 2 years. Maybe the updates, and I didn't see anybody really complaining about the latest firmware update, unlike all the ones since I bought my camera. But yeah, I'll show you a few images here in a minute. But I'll just talk about this camera briefly. It's 40 megapixel. So that was one thing I was really interested in was a high resolution sensor. Uh, and then also I love this top plate LCD that it's always on, doesn't drain the battery. Battery life is pretty good. It's not great, but it's pretty good. Not as good as my OM3, that's for sure, or my OM1, but it's pretty good and it's well built. I don't know how the weather sealing is. I'm not going to take this out into a downpour, but it did rain a little bit yesterday when I took it out, and it's still good today. It's still working. Uh, I would say from the few of the things that I like about this is the automatic focus bracketing is really interesting and it works really well. It's a pain in the sense that, I end up with like 100 images instead of 15, and I have to stack them using third-party software. But unlike my own system camera, I can do it in camera because the depth of field on our Micro Four Thirds camera is good enough that you can get a nice depth in 15 frames. You have to do more sometimes, but a lot of times I can get away with 15 frames, stacks in camera, creates a JPEG that I can, if I got the exposure right, I can just do a little minor editing and crop, and it's perfect. With this one, the focus bracketing, though the autofocus bracketing is really, really good. And it's I would say in some ways better than OM Systems implementation of focus bracketing. Uh, there's a little bit more of a learning curve, but if you're into close up and macro photography, this in terms of workflow, even though there's a little more cumbersome, ultimately is a better execution. Um, and it pains me to say that, but it is better in some ways. The downside again is it creates a lot more images and you have to stack them in third-party software. So ultimately, uh, if you prefer in-camera stacking, OM system is the way to go. And I do mostly in-camera stacking for all of my close-up and macro. But for critical macro, where you don't get any holes and things like that, then you have to go into focus bracketing and do it in third-party software. And in that scenario, it's kind of a tough call in terms of workflow. Now, in terms of image quality, I would say both are equivalent. You're not going to see really any difference. I would argue the Micro Four Thirds is even a little better. But let's just say they're both good enough for all intents and purposes. For the enthusiast, I can't speak to people that do macro photography professionally and make money and make a living off it or have special applications. But let's be honest, these cameras, most of us are just enthusiasts and we buy these cameras, to enjoy the craft. So lots of great things about this camera. The image quality, the ergonomics are pretty good. I've kind of gotten used to this little bump. I was complaining about this when I first got it. Uh, it is a substantial camera though. I mean, technically it's only a little bigger than an OM1, but it feels like 10 times bigger because all the lenses are a lot bigger. But yeah, so let me show you a couple images and I'll just make a few comments about that. And so again, they're on my Flickr page. This is the best place to look at uh, my photos if you're a pixel peeper, that is. Uh, let's see, what's this? This is okay. So this is the XH2. I used an ND filter on the front because it doesn't have built-in ND like our OM system. I use an ND64, which is certainly on all of the OM system cameras that have built-in ND filters. You can do ND64. And I got an 8 second exposure here, I think, or 13 second at f8. Uh, but this is almost all of the 40 megapixels in here, and stellar, stellar image quality. I mean, and I'm talking about technical quality, not the image. The image itself is okay, it's just a waterfall picture, but stellar. Let's see. This is the 55 to 200 lens that I talked about. And I had to crop way in. 55 to 200 doesn't have the reach. This bird was across the stream. This is an osprey on a stick. And I can tell you the bird detect was struggling with this image. So the autofocus is nowhere near, when it comes to bird detect, as good as the OM system cameras, OM1, OM3, OM1 Mark II. But I did manage to finally get at least this frame in focus and processed it and got this shot. So it was pretty good. Um, that's the Sony. I'll talk about that next. Okay, this is also from the XH2. This was a JPEG image that I did process a tiny bit. I just blurred the background just a tiny bit more and brightened the eyes. And you're gonna see this picture again in one of my videos when I talk about using this, this flash. I used this flash for that image there. But you know, for whatever reason, I had the camera set to JPEG and not RAW, so I lost some of the highlights here. They clipped a little bit, but doesn't matter. Um, but you can read the numbers on her tag here, the phone number to her vet. It's crazy how much detail that 40 megapixels gives you. And I was using the 33 1.4 lens, and I shot it at f8, mostly because it was so bright. I had to temper the aperture down because I couldn't. I really don't want to use a slower shutter speed because I'm using flash, and then I couldn't get the ISO lower than 64, so I had to crank the aperture to f8, and I used the fastest shutter speed that I could in terms of sync speed because this flash doesn't have high speed sync. Even if it didn't, wouldn't be powerful enough anyway. Uh, but yeah, this picture I'm very very happy with. The colors are pretty much straight out of camera. Very very minor adjustments there, and I love this image of my girl Ellie. Um, this one here, this is also the XH2 with the 23 millimeter 1.4. It's a Viltrox lens. I bought it used for like $190, and this lens is stellar. The Viltrox 23 1.4. You can buy them brand new, I think, for 250 or 300. It's not an expensive lens, but amazing image quality out of this lens. And this is a 5000 ISO image. So a lot of credit goes to DxO for the overall quality and crispiness of this image, um, and the detail. And this is handheld. Okay, I was at what shutter speed? 1/100th of a second, f4, because I needed the depth of field. But Yeah, stellar, stellar image quality. This is also the XH2 with another Viltrox lens. This, in this case, the 15 1.7. That's another lens I have. I've done a review on this. Stellar image quality out of this lens, and the image is a little bit warm for my taste. I should have processed this a little more. Uh, but I'm really happy with like this image here. I really love the colors I'm getting from the Fuji. This is very, very Fuji like colors. The OM3, OM system cameras would not create colors like this. I mean, you can get there eventually, right? You can do anything in post-processing with the digital file. But that said, straight out of camera, the colors are really gorgeous from the Fuji. And I think that's why a lot of people love the Fujifilm system. Here I was shooting just straight black and white. I didn't use acros or any of but this is black and white with a red filter because I just needed the skies to come in a little bit more. Um, the digital red filter. This is a photo walk I did with my buddy Owen, and again, just stellar image quality out of this camera. What was this lens? Again, the 23 1.4, very affordable lens. Another image, black and white, great tonality here in the black, in the whites and the highlights and shadows. I mean, I use the red filter again, digital red filter, and another shot, digital red filter, um, 23 millimeter. I messed up the depth of field on this one a little bit. It focused down here, and I really should have focused on the ship because the ship is just a tiny bit soft. And I believe I was at f8. Yeah, I was at f8, but I didn't have quite enough depth of field to get everything in focus perfectly. Uh, this one is okay. I missed focus on this. It focused down here. I wanted to focus on the tip of the leaf. This is at f4, ISO 4000. But I was trying to get this leaf in the frame and pointing at the person that walked by. And I like the framing here of the arch of this tunnel, framing the leaf. So there's some interesting compositional elements here, but the overall execution was poor. But I kind of like the look and feel of this image, but it technically it's not a very good image. Um, okay, so I'll come back to this image. But I would say the only flaw, and now that I've been using this for the last couple of weeks with the new firmware, I'm starting to understand people's frustration with the autofocus. It's definitely not as good as the OM3, in my opinion. It's constantly hunting. And I'm talking about photo mode. I'm not talking about video. I know people have their own opinions. I can't talk about video, although I did try. I might be able to pull that clip up, but you know, I think what I'm finding is compared to, and I'll talk about the Sony next. Uh, but when you have there's so many configurations for autofocus in here to optimize it, to get it to uh, focus, to improve the performance of the autofocus, I should say, it's too complicated. The Sony is the least complicated, right? There's a couple of different settings there, but it just works, right? It just works all the time. Even when I have the settings not the way they should be, if I point the camera at something, it'll most of the time it'll get what I want in focus, even though I didn't set it up to focus on that, right? This one here, I have to I have to be very conscious of the settings in the autofocus for the subjects that I'm going to be shooting if I want it to be more reliable. Because I wanted to get a picture of me and this other photographer So I gave the camera to my friend Robert, and it came out fine, except it missed focus on me and the other photographer. We're out of focus. It focused on the background, and that's because uh, I was shooting the birds with this, and I said, "Oh, here, just take this and take a picture." Even if I had the Sony on like subject detect, if you point it at a couple of people, uh, it's gonna focus on you and get you. This one, I don't know why it went to the background, but it missed focus. And I noticed a lot of shots from my photo walks this week and last week with this, a lot of missed focus shots and and I was struggling in the field, partially because, I'm not as familiar with the autofocusing system, partially because there are a lot of settings to optimize it. And to me, I think it's just a little bit too many things to set. So if you are thinking about Fuji, uh, keep that in mind. The learning curve on the autofocusing system is pretty steep relative to Sony and OM systems even. But you will get focus eventually. I need to practice more with this and get better at using the autofocusing system, and then I think I'll get more consistent results and know exactly what to do when the situation changes or the subject changes. I'll be able to change quickly to what I need it to do. But as it stands, this is not a camera pick it up and pick all area or zone area and think it's going to focus on what you want. It's not. All right, so let me go back to the chat section a little bit, um, and see what's new. Oh, Marco's here. Good to see you. And Anthony, good to see you. And well, hello. And this side towards screen, good to see you. Did you get your collection of Kodak? Oh, keychain. No, I already got a couple of crap cameras. Or let me rephrase. I got a few toy cameras. Instead of that silly Kodak thing, okay? I get it. It's pocketable, but I don't see how you can have fun with that camera when you know the kind of quality you're going to get from it. It's so bad. I watched Robin Wong's video. I was like, God, the image quality is so bad. I, I just I just don't think I would enjoy it, even though I can just keep it in my pocket and whip it out. And me personally, I would not have fun with it. I think Robin said he liked it, just because of it's kind of fun. But for me, if I want a fun toy camera, it's this one up here on my shelf. And I have this on my deal page, robtrek.com/deals. It's towards the bottom, selling now for $35. And this camera, the image quality is better than what I saw on Robin's video. It still sucks, but it's certainly better. Uh, because this has a top-down kind of view, so you have to look down here to compose, and it does video. Video's not bad. There's no image stabilization. Has black and white filter, sepia filter, probably has some other stuff. This to me is fun to use, right? Um, because what's funny is you know how you do video on this? You have to crank it, which doesn't help with the stability, right? But you know, when I crank this, it goes into video recording mode. It's awesome. This is fun, and it looks fun, right? You take this out, and people are like, "Oh, wow, that is really cool," and it is. It's a cool little camera. Um, 'Cause let me see, I'll show you a few images from this. Chu Zhao, Xu Zhao. So here's some images I took with it. Now this looks a lot like the Kodak one, but there's more detail in here. The highlights are clipped because it's a little tiny sensor, but there's decent detail here. Look at the grass, where it's in focus. Uh, Here's another one. This is a little bit lower light, and it looks like it missed focus on her because this looks a lot like the Kodak camera quality, but it's still better than that. Here's some sunflowers I took. Pretty decent detail. You can see the little seeds and everything in here. And someone took a picture of me. There's my trusty OM3. Another shot with this camera. And I have some video clips with it too. It's my friend. This is a panel I did. I took 3 or 4 images, or I took 5 images, it says here. I took 5 images, stitched them together in Photoshop or something, and came out great. Another image, you know. Um, so if you're interested in this camera for $35, it makes a great gift. Um, and this is the black and white out of camera. This is another panel, I think. Yeah, this is definitely a panel. I stitched, I think, 3 images together, and did that one. There's no dynamic range to speak of because you can see it clips the highlights pretty quickly. But just for fun, this is an this is an awesome little camera. I love this picture. So if you search my Flickr page for this, the Chuzhou, and I also have it on my deal page. See what? Whoops. Uh, Down here. Here it is. So it's $3 coupon here, so you can get this for $32. Um, yeah, it's a cool little camera. Okay. And then Eric says, glad to see you using the Fuji more. It takes a few positive photo walks to appreciate any camera. Can't say that about the Ricoh. At first, I was stuck at you suck on every photo. Then I learned it. Yeah. So that there's a lot to be said to that. Is once you kind of learn the nuances of the camera, uh, you'll get great results from any camera system. And so I don't want, like Eric said, man, this sucks, right? Like right now, I'm struggling a bit with the autofocus, but that's because I haven't been in the field with it enough to kind of tweak it and quickly access. Like I want to set up the autofocus so it generally gets everything in focus. But if I need it to perform better, then I can tweak it so I can say, okay, let's focus on birds in flight. Let's focus on people. Let's focus on flowers, whatever, right? Sure, close-up photography. The complexity of the autofocus on that is the learning curve is a little bit high to kind of get the best performance. But ultimately, I'll get good results once I get better at that, and then I'll enjoy the camera more and probably take it out more. The only problem is it's the lenses and the camera and everything is just so much bigger and heavier. Like here's my OM3. I got my OM3 in here, 12 to 45 Pro, 25 1.4, and the vintage 25 millimeter Pen F lens. So I have in this bag my camera and 3 lenses, just right in here, a little fanny pack, right? Uh, what I could do is 12 to 45 Pro and swap out my prime lenses here and put in a single 40 to 150, then I'm covered from 12 millimeters up to 150 millimeters. And I'll get fantastic image quality. Now, if I wanted to go even more compact, I could use the 14 to 42 kit lens, the easy version, and 40 to 150, and probably the 25 1 point. You know, anyway, uh, still, all that's not as compact as this, right? This is kind of the ultimate in portability cup holder camera. I forget the video I watched on this, but uh, and Larry's here. Good to see you. And Darko. And this side said, you picked up the CamSnap Digital Super 8. I'm not familiar with that one. I was surprised with the build and details. It will never replace a Super 8 camera, but it is a fun form factor. Okay. I've seen the CamSnap. I think they're film cameras, and that's cool, right? But I'm not familiar with this 8 millimeter. That's new. And I'm doing well, Darko. Thank you for asking. It shoots 2.7K. Okay. And then Gray Fatigue asks, what kind of live streaming gear do you have now? Still the... Oh, no, no. I upgraded to, I'm just using a webcam, Insta360 webcam. Um, I forget the model, but it's this thing, whatever that is. I'm a, I'm I'm a big fan of Insta360, actually. I love their products. I have several. I have their little Go 3. I have their 1-inch 360 degree camera, and I have their one of their original Insta RSs, and I might review the Ace Pro 2. They said they would send me one, but I haven't seen it yet. But if they send me one, I'll review that too. Uh, Emily already did an awesome review on the Insta360 Ace Pro 2, Emily at Micro Four Nerds. So you can check out her video if you want to kind of preview what I might do on my video. I'll never do as good a job. I'm not a camera review guy, really. I'm not a review person in general, but uh, sometimes I get the gear like this flash. I got this sight unseen because I love flash photography. I said, yeah, just send me this, whatever it is. I didn't even know what it was. They didn't have pictures, nothing for it. Viltrox said, we're making a flash. Do you want to review it? And I said, okay. Lighting, when it comes to flash, I'll always review flash gear when it comes to flash. That's kind of my mojo, that's my jam is using flash photography. But occasionally I turn down about half the lenses that they ask me to review, and the other half I take in. And then tripods. Oh, I got a new tripod I'm going to review. It's pretty awesome. It's not quite as functional as for me, for my purposes, as the Photo Pro that I bought, but they sent this tripod. The Photo Pro I bought and paid for myself because it did everything I wanted it to do, specifically for doing panoramas. But this other one, it's made by Coleman, is smaller, lighter, but same excellent quality, and does 50% of what my Photo Pro does for doing panoramas. Um, the other 50% it does, you can do the other 50% manually, but it's not as smooth as my Photo Pro. So when I do the review of the tripod, I'll compare it to my Photo Pro to demonstrate or illustrate better exactly what I mean by that. Both of those tripods are in my car right now, so I can't bring them out and just show you now. But it has to do with one is inverted ball. They're both using inverted ball heads, but one has a fluid head on top. The other one has a rotator on it. So uh, that's the main difference. But ultimately, the Coleman is a smaller, lighter package with the same stability, strength, build quality. It's an excellent tripod. So I'm going to be very happy to review that. But camera gear itself, like I've had this for months now. I'm not going to just go out and do a review on this. Although I'd probably sell some, through my affiliate links if I did. But, how much can I really say about this other than what I just said in the live stream, right? It takes nice pictures and it's fun to use. And it's kind of, you either like how it looks or you don't. So I don't know. I tried to do a review on that XH2 when I first got it. That video is on my channel now. It's a crap review. It's not very good. So, the OM3, God knows I could do a review on that, but I'm terrible at it. I'd be like, it's a great camera. What else do you need to know? It's hard to talk about an individual camera without talking about the entire system, right? Because when you buy a camera body, you have to talk about the entire system, flashes, lenses. To me, that's more important than the camera itself, right? When you buy the camera, what system are you buying into? And most reviews just talk about, they brush over that, right? They say, yeah, great lens selection, but here are the specs on the camera. This is the image quality you get. These are some of the features in the camera, et cetera, et cetera. You know, uh, and all the cameras have nice features, but ultimately, I think a camera decision, the reason you buy a camera comes down to the entire system that you're buying into, and how does the camera fit your needs, either in ergonomics and workflow. Uh, you know, that there's just so much. It would not be fair, and there's so many videos. It's such a waste of time. These camera review videos are such a waste of time. I mean, I watch them, can't help myself. I watch them all, and they're all really great content. But ultimately, I don't think it helps me make a decision. Like, for example, the Panasonic S1R Mark II. I'm gassing for that camera so bad because I used to have an S5, but I never used it because it was just a 24 megapixel full frame camera with contrast detect. That didn't bother me too much, but the autofocus was pretty rough. Not on the photo side, but on the video side, which is why I bought it. I bought it for video. And if I was buying it for photography, I would probably still have that camera. But I didn't buy it for photography. I bought it for video. And ultimately, it was a fail. The S1R, I would be buying that for photography. Because what I learned, despite all the specs and boxes every camera checks, right? Because the S5 checked every single box for me. It's a relatively small full frame camera, great image quality. But what ultimately sold me, and this was after the fact, was the lenses. The lenses are so good on that camera in that system. The L mount lenses, the 50S, what do they call it? Well, the 50-1.8, the 35-1.8, the 85-1.8. That trio of lenses, the quality for I can get a used 85 millimeter 1.8 in excellent condition for $300. That's $1,000 lens in value. Same thing with the 50-1.8. That's at least a $500 to $800 lens. You can buy those for $200. I'm talking used, okay? On sale. I almost got it on sale. I was going to buy it even though I didn't have an L mount camera. It was on sale for like $250 a couple months ago. I should have got it. But I said, I didn't know if I was going to get back in L mount or not. The, the 35, and then the plethora of third party, particularly Sigma. This is the system of lenses and the quality in terms of bang for buck. The L mount system is stellar. And now that they have phase detect built in, you know, they're going to be stellar video cameras. And if I get the 44 megapixel S1R, because I had an S1R Mark One, and I love the image quality out of it, but it was slow, 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 and the autofocus was mediocre for taking pictures of my dog Ellie. And it wouldn't take a single shot of her if she was moving at all. It would not focus on her if it was moving. So it had a lot of inherent problems for my use, right? Which is taking pictures of my dog. Uh, but the video was decent. It wasn't S1H video, it was S1R video. It was decent. But the S1R Mark II solves every single problem. The autofocus is going to be way better for taking pictures of moving subjects, including people, my dog. Uh, and it's going to have much better video than just about anything I have right now, probably even better than my A7R5, and faster continuous shutter um, for sports action stuff. It's just, it pushes all the buttons, checks all the boxes for me. So I'm going to be, I had an opportunity to buy one for $2,400. I was this close. I was this close, but I said, I can't do it right now. I just don't have the money. I mean, I could put it on a credit card, but I just don't want to go down that rabbit hole right now because Christmas and Black Friday is around the corner. And I don't want to rack up my credit cards before Black Friday because that's when I normally rack it up, right? So I said, I'll wait. I can wait. I can wait 6 months or something and try to and continue looking for a good deal. But if I can get it closer to 2000, if I can get it closer to 2000, I will pull the trigger. I'll be back in the L mount system like that because then I can add three lenses to the system very quickly. I probably get the 35, 50. I don't think I'll bother with the 85, but I'll get the 35 and 50 right away, just right off the bat, and I'm good because I already know the lenses I want to get. And this is what people need to think about when they buy a camera, in my opinion. And this is why I don't really do camera reviews because you have to think about the system and what is in the system that you're going to get to go with it right away. So, if you're already an enthusiast and in a camera system, um, that's one thing, and you probably have an idea of the focal lengths and things that you like to use. But it drives me nuts. On the one hand, I envy them. On the other hand, it drives me nuts. People that buy a system and sell their old system every year, right? Or it seems like every 6 months. I just switch from Sony. I just switch from Fujifilm. I just switch from Canon. Whatever. This is a game changer. Blah. Oh my God, it drives me nuts. But I envy the fact that they can sell off their system and go all in on another one. So I'll give them credit for that. I have trouble doing that, but it just drives me nuts. And when people review camera systems, rarely do they talk about anything that really matters when it comes to buying a camera. Um, Chris and Jordan are about the closest to really talking about the camera system as a whole, but even then, even their reviews are very lacking and not very helpful for me in deciding on a system. Um, they're just a very brief kind of like part might pique my interest in a camera system, and then I have to go in and do my own research from there. Either somebody has the camera and I can try it, or go to the store, et cetera, et cetera. Somebody who's also, uh, uh, I can never remember his name. The other guy, I can't. My memory is terrible because he's one of my favorite channels. But he buys and sells camera systems every month. It feels like. But he's not apologetic about it. He tells you exactly what interests him about it and why he sold the other one. He has gas worse than me, but he can sell the old system in a heartbeat, right? Okay, let me hit the chat because I did I show the Fuji images? I did. So I need to talk about the Sony next. I'll get to that next. Let me get to the chat first. Uh, John asked, "Do you miss the lack of Zoom, resume, and Zoom?" Yes, a little bit. Not as much as I thought. Not as much as I thought. But what John is referring to is you could step Zoom, right? So you would like on the Deluxe 8, I can go, you know, 24, 35, 50, 75, just like that. Just click it and it zooms to that. It steps to that next. I really like that in here. I do like that because I like a little bit more definitive approach to zooming in and out. What the LX or Deluxe 8 does is just a continuous zoom in and out. Then you let go when you want it to stop once you get to the zoom range that you want. And it's a little finicky because I have to back off sometimes, go before it a little bit to kind of get to the focal length that I want. But that's okay. Uh, the way I approach composition now, it's less critical that I have the step zoom feature. I've kind of grown a little bit in that respect, but I did really like that in this, because then it's very easy for me to go to another camera system. Like, let's say I take this out and I step zoom and it steps to 28, then to 50, then to 75. It's very easy for me to go to another camera system and say, okay, let me get the prime lens at 28 or 35 or 50 and just shoot with that and know exactly what I'm going to get. So you get a little more consistency in the field of view, helps you with your compositions. Whereas just an open zoom like this, you're kind of all over the place. Sometimes you're at 32, sometimes you're at 38, sometimes you're at 63, like all these weird focal ranges. And it's very hard to go to another camera system that has interchangeable lenses unless you use a zoom lens. So I have to kind of uh, I just have to kind of get past that and just think about the composition and not worry about the focal length, right? Uh, so I just look at it. I'll zoom in. Okay, does this composition look good? If not, I'll zoom in or out from there. And I try not to worry about the focal length because as much as I really like this, it I think I'm past shooting with one focal length because there's a lot of videos out there. Go out there with one prime. I'm going to shoot with 50 millimeter for 90 days or whatever for 1 year. What you've seen those videos, right? There's a lot of benefit to doing things like that where you do not zoom in and out. You go out with a single focal length and you shoot with that focal length to uh, learn how to see things and get the composition right. It's a very, very powerful technique. I don't mean to sound pompous or I don't know what the word is. Uh, but I think I'm past that. I'm a little bit past worrying about focal lengths, and I'm very, very focused on composition now. Despite the images on my Flickr page, don't consider. I'm not cherry picking. Well, I'm cherry picking a little, but I'm not putting images out there to teach anybody about composition and lighting or anything like that. I'm putting the images out there with the different focal lengths or the different kinds of images to talk about gear partially, right? And my experience with that gear in taking photos, and also different techniques, specifically like panoramas or birds in flight. So I'll show an image and I'll say, okay, look at this one. I shot it, 1/1000th of a second, wide open at f4, you know, auto ISO. So a lot of the images I post on my Instagram and Flickr, they're strictly for educational purposes for both myself to understand the capabilities of my gear and the kind of results I get with different settings. And I hate that video from Tony. Settings don't matter. I hate that video. But I understand his point, but still, settings matter. So a lot of the images I put out there to educate myself in what happens when I use a certain shutter speed in particular, that's probably the biggest one. But what does the depth of field look like on different systems, APS-C, full frame, Micro Four Thirds, or even compact camera systems? And what's the ISO look like at various things? And how much can I temper that ISO with DxO? So there's a lot of things, and there's a lot of reasons to use, and that's why I always, when I can, share EXIF data on all my images on Instagram and Flickr. I never delete that because I want people to look at an image that I created, not for the composition and the in terms of photography, right? Because my images are just okay. But with respect to, okay, what happens when I use these settings? What happens when I use this camera and lens combination? You know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Uh, so that was a long answer to say that, yeah, I'm a little bit past. I do miss that feature though. I still miss it because I do like consistency, but I can get by without it. Um, but it's definitely be nice if they put it back in. I would use it. Uh, how many are there would like to see OM System bring out a monochrome OM3 next year? That would be interesting. Um, or Pen F monochrome. That would be interesting. Uh, I can tell you, I love my Pentax K3 monochrome. I just love it. Even though in a blind test, I probably couldn't tell you what camera shot what in black and white, especially after the post process. But I love the concept of it, and I think I think if they could do it, I would buy one. I would definitely buy one, right? Take my money. But I don't know if they're ready yet. I just don't think they can do it. They just don't have the bandwidth and the resources to crank out cameras that may or may not do well. They're going to put out cameras that they think are going to hit the ground running, right? So, uh, with the least amount of effort, like the OM5 Mark II, low effort but good camera. OM3, you know, that was a lot of effort to put that out. Very high effort. The 50 to 200, a lot of effort put into that. And they put these cameras out because they wanted these cameras and lenses to come out, out of the gate to be to sell quickly. And for at least from my perspective, those two products are going to do that or have done it. In the case of the OM3, I think it was very, very popular. Seems to have tempered off quite a bit, but it was very popular when it came out. And I think it did well for them. But uh, The 50 to 200, again, there's people that are like waiting for that. Apparently, about 10% of the people out there, at least the people that watch my channel, are like, take my money. The majority of people are like, great lens, but can't afford it, right? That's me. If that lens was like closer to 1,000, 1,500, I would probably buy it. But at $3,700, yeah, I don't need that focal length enough to spend that kind of money. Um, and Darko says, I'm getting an M42 to Nikon Z adapter to use the 51.8 Oriston Meyer Optics vintage lens. Looking for, oh, that's cool. Yeah, vintage lenses are fun. And wow, that Deluxe 8 is actually pretty beautiful. Never seen it that close until you just put it up to the Insta360. I kind of want to go check that out now. You should. I mean, seriously, man, that you have a Leica Q2 though. But yeah, check one out. This, I got the half case on it, right? And I got the lens cover on it, the auto lens cap. I love that little Leica Loco, and I love the buttons, the menu. The menu is amazing. Um, yeah, just one button to go in the menu, and I think it's touchscreen. Yeah. So, um, there's a lot to like about this camera. If I had to start over again from scratch, like if I didn't have either of these, I would get this. For me, it's worth the extra money. At this point, early in my photography, like 10 years ago, I was hyper pragmatic. I was only buying cameras that were going to solve a specific problem for me and most bang for the buck, et cetera, all of that, right? But now, I'm looking at cameras like this. Like I was looking at the Sigma BF, too many compromises, just too many. But this doesn't have many compromises. It loses some features over the LX100 Mark II, but overall not many compromises. And Eric, the Deluxe 8 is now selling for 1915. Yeah, I know. It's gone up 300 bucks or more. If OM System brought out a dedicated monochrome camera, would you trade your K3? No. Uh, the K3 is a DSLR, big, heavy, bulky, pain in the butt to carry around. But it's the DSLR experience is part of that, right? That's why I bought a K3 Mark III. I'm sorry, a K3. I think it's the Mark One color camera for that DSLR experience. That's why I'm keeping my Nikon DF and not upgrading to a Nikon ZF. I prefer having that DSLR experience for these cameras, these camera models. Um, I'd love to add a monochrome OM3 or Panaf or whatever. I would definitely add one, but I wouldn't trade it because they're totally different cameras, totally different experiences in the field for me, and I enjoy both. It's not one or the other. If I was a very pragmatic person, yeah, I would just sell that off and buy the OM3 or whatever Panaf monochrome. But it's not a pragmatic choice for me at this point. I have my very pragmatic camera, the OM1. That's the camera that I'm using primarily for my architectural work, paid work there, which is far and few between lately. But I use it primarily for that. And then my OM3 now does everything else. I'm even using it at events because it's just kind of a fun camera. And I have more fun using it. And if that shows through my images, I mean, initially I thought maybe it's not a good idea because now it's about the camera. But I know when now that event season's coming back, the Halloween parties and Christmas parties and New Year's parties, these kind of things. I'm gonna want to take the OM3. I will just take it. I'll hesitate a little bit. I should bring the OM1. It has the grip. If it's gonna be one of those events where I have to do a lot of portraits, I might go with the OM1 with the grip because that's a lot easier to use. But I don't know. And Walter, speaking about camera reviews, I've become aware that I use very few of the features of cameras, so only better sensors or lenses will make me switch. Yeah. So Walter's definitely much more pragmatic, no question at all. Uh, he's got two or three lenses, and that's it. A couple of zooms and a prime, and two camera bodies, one for backup. Very, very straightforward. And Rob Trek, you can pick up the S9 for cheap, the S5 even cheaper. I know. Yeah, going back to the L mount thing, I had an S5, just never used it for photography. It doesn't because it doesn't offer really much. It has the 24 megapixel full frame sensor, but ultimately it's not that much better than my 20 megapixel OM3 or whatever Micro Four Thirds. It just doesn't interest me. Uh, and the S9 is kind of in the same boat. It doesn't have flash capability, and it just a little bit too many limitations. And the lenses are kind of big on an S9. If I go into the L mount system, I'm going to go with that trio, 3550, and maybe even go wider. They have some wider lenses. I can't think of them now. And those would be really kind of silly on an S9. The S9 is good with that little 18 to 40 zoom that they have. That makes sense to me. But I don't need a camera like that. And wanted to say I love my OM3. Awesome. When did you get an OM3? I think is this you, Siegfried? That's awesome. Hi guys from Switzerland. Any thoughts on the new Panasonic? Oh, at 1300 grams. Is that I think that's an L mount lens though, right? Let me take a quick look. If it's not the L mount one, I don't think I've seen this. So it is an L mount, and you're saying it's 1300 grams. Wow, it is. 82 millimeter filter thread. So this is about the same size as my 300 f4. That's interesting. So if I put that on an S1R Mark II, I could crop in to get an effective 800 millimeters and still get about 20 megapixels of data. Or I could use it in, I assume the S1 Mark II. I'm not familiar with the specs, but this is a sports action wildlife lens, the 100 to 500. And whatever camera you mount it to, it better have like kick-ass subject detect for me. For me, I would need kick-ass bird detect, like the OM3, right, or OM1. It would have to be stellar at that for me to even consider buying a telephoto lens like this for my L mount camera. Now, if I was in the L mount system, then it's going to depend on which camera I have. I don't think the S1R is ideal for this kind of lens, but maybe the S1 Mark II or whatever camera, if it has a good frame per second, like continuous shutter speed of at least 15 to 20 frames, ideally 25 to 50 frames. If you can't do 25 frames per second, I wouldn't bother with a telephoto lens for me. And this is the other thing that kind of drives me nuts is, and Chris and everybody else, but like Chris and Jordan, right? They say, oh, the camera will do 9 or 10 frames per second, and that's more than enough for most sports action types. It is not. Let me tell you, when I go down to 9 or 10 frames per second, and in my Sony, I can only do about 6 frames per second. No, no, it's oh my God, it's terrible. Who cares if the frame is in focus if the bird's wing is closed like this? You know what I mean? And then the next shot, the wings are like crooked or something. When you have 25 frames per second and you have good autofocus like the OM3 or OM1, you're going to get the exact frame you want in focus. And if that one frame is out of focus, the next frame will be in focus. Because yeah, sometimes you'll capture 100, 200 frames, and 20 or 30 of them will be out of focus. Okay, that's just what been my experience. But the odds of you getting the frame that you want on a camera that can do 25 to 50 frames per second cannot be understated for the kind of photography I do. Uh, but I will tell you, I my I have a very high confidence that that's going to be an awesome lens, and that's an awesome price, and it's compact and lightweight. And if I was in the L mount system right now, it's a tough call for me because I have my birding wildlife cameras. I don't know if I would go for this or not. Because for $2,000, I can get me my 90 millimeter macro. I'm gassing for that lens. The 90 macro. Oh my God, I want that lens. That was the other reason I didn't pull the trigger on the S1R Mark II because I was thinking, if I do that, I might as well get my macro lens because I have the 60 macro and I'm pretty happy with that. That's why I'm like hesitating to get the 90. But if I buy the S1R Mark II, I'll never get the 90 because I shot my load basically, right? I've already maxed out my card. Okay. And Marco says, in principle, the 50 to 200 seems amazing, but I already have the 50 to 200, Lumix 50 to 200 that I got for only a few $100 and it's half the size. Yeah. Yeah. Lumix has that lens covered, that focal length covered, and it's an awesome lens at half the price. So that's another reason it's a little bit of a tough call for me. But even the Lumix lens, I just don't want it because I just don't see a need for that focal length. If I needed that focal length, I probably would buy the Lumix because it's cheaper. But no question, the I'm sorry, OM system 50 to 200 is going to perform better. I would argue in terms of autofocusing speed because of the it's going to have faster autofocusing motors. There's a lot of technology and update to focusing since the Lumix one came out. But let's say that the focusing speed's the same. You have the same aperture. You're going to get virtually the same image quality. Why would you pay twice as much for the OM system one, other than complete compatibility with your own system camera and get better autofocus, right? Because it's gonna work better. Steve says, on the M1X and the M1 Mark II and the M5 Mark II of the new OM camera bodies, would you replace any of the old cameras with any kind of new ones? And if so, which ones? Hmm. I would replace the EM1 Mark II. Yeah. The EM1X is very unique and very, very different experience. Very fluid, very smooth. That camera is like butter. I mean that when I used it for a week or two and I was really happy with the overall experience I have with that camera. It's just too big for me. I just don't want to use a big camera. But and it's smaller than comparable cameras, right, in other formats. But uh, very, very unique camera, dual processor. It's the only dual processor home system or Olympus camera I'm aware of. A lot of unique technologies. Olympus did a lot of amazing things with that camera, and the execution of everything in that is excellent. If it wasn't for the size, for me, I would have one. EM5 Mark II, also excellent compact camera, extremely well made. I think it is one of their signature cameras. Just like the M1X, the M5 Mark II, signature camera from Olympus. These two cameras I would never ever sell. I'll never ever sell my EM5 Mark II. Uh, Even though it gets very, very little use, whenever I take that camera out, my satisfaction level, is way up here whenever I take that camera out. Uh, okay, so why the M1 Mark II? Why was I so quick to uh, jump on that and say that's the one I would sell? Because that is also a signature camera. That camera had so many improvements over the original EM1, but the EM1 Mark III is even better. The OM1, way better for sports action wildlife. If you don't do sports action wildlife, EM1 Mark II is fine. But that would still be the one I sell and upgrade to, say, an OM3 or an OM1 Mark II. I would definitely upgrade that to, because if you like a grip, you know, because the EM5 Mark II, no grip, and it doesn't perform as well as either of the other two cameras. If you want the grip, then EM OM1 Mark II, or just get a used OM1 Mark One. It's pretty much the same camera. Uh, that would be a really nice upgrade for just a little bit of money. I mean, I think you could probably the price spread in the used market is probably only $500, if that, between an EM1 Mark II and an OM1 Mark One, and you'll see a huge difference if you do sports action wildlife. If you don't care about the subject detect, Starry Sky AF, whatever, whatever the new features are, there's no reason to get rid of the M1 Mark II. The M1 Mark II, that's Robin Wong's workhorse for event photography, people photography. Uh, there's no reason to upgrade, but the OM1, even the face detect is vastly improved over the EM1 Mark II. So definitely EM1 Mark II is the one to go. The M5 Mark II, you won't get that much money for it. That's one of the big things, but uh, that is such an excellent camera, and it's so compact. It's basically your everyday camera. There's no reason to sell it. PM1MX, if you're not using the double grip on it and you find it a problem, maybe get rid of the M1X and keep the M1 Mark II. But if you like, if you're one of the persons like if you're a person like me that appreciates the engineering and technology and thought that went into designing and building a camera, the M1X and the M5 Mark II, hands down. EM1 Mark II can easily be replaced because those are workhorse cameras, right? Those are just simply workhorse cameras, flagship cameras for work, and they're easily replaceable. Because if you look at any flagship camera from any of the manufacturers, when you go on the used market, they're always the most discounted, right? I could buy like a Canon R5 Mark One for like $2,000. What was that? A $4,000 camera when it came out? The S1R Mark One, another $4,000 camera is now like $1,100. Flagship cameras just go down because these are work cameras. People don't care about these cameras. They want the latest and greatest, and they don't want the old latest and greatest, you know? But the M5 Mark II, that's selling for practically what it sold for brand new. I paid 450 for mine brand new because I got it as a kit, and I sold the lens that it came with, and my net cost was like 450 bucks. You can't even get an EM5 Mark II for 450 in mint condition because that's what mine is. It's basically mint. EM1X flagship camera discounted heavily, but that's the camera that, just like the EM5 Mark II, design, engineering, thought, workflow, just in the field. These are two cameras that I would never sell. Workhorse cameras, like my OM1, I've no love for that camera. I will sell it in a heartbeat if they come out with a new flagship that's worthy of my money. I didn't think the Mark II was worthy as a replacement to my Mark One. If I didn't have a flagship, I would buy a Mark II. But I have a Mark One, and the Mark II just didn't add anything for me. If I was lucky enough to win the Lotto Max, I would not hesitate to buy the new Hasselblad X2D2 and the lenses that just came out. This would never happen. For now, I'll be using, yeah, you and me both, man. I would definitely love an X2D. I don't know why Hasselblad didn't send me one. I have a YouTube channel. Seemed like anybody with a YouTube channel got one for free, except me. When I get gas for the Deluxe 8, I hug the Stylus One. That's a great little camera, but I just didn't feel it. I'm much, I like my Panasonic LX5 better than the Stylus One, even though they're totally different cameras. But I get it. I get why there's so much love for that camera. The lens is stupid good, really good reach, lots of features, very familiar menu system, excellent build quality, great battery life. Overall, really good performance for everything you want a compact camera to do. But I didn't have any I just didn't have those I just had no mojo with that camera for whatever reason. Roger says, what lens do you use the most in your architectural jobs? I have the 8 to 25, 12 to 40. So it would be, if I had an 8 to 25, it would be the 8 to 25. But I use a Panasonic 7 to 14 f4. I have to deal with flaring issues time to time. And if I was doing more regular work, I would definitely get the 8 to 25, hands down. But I don't do enough work to justify spending $1,000 for that lens. Uh, I mean, if I was doing 2, 3 architectural jobs a week, yeah, I would have bought that lens a long time ago, but I'm not. Yes, the Siegfried. I have the OM3 for 6 months now, and it's growing on me. I must say, I'm very optimistic about. Oh, awesome! So Siegfried, I've mentioned this every stream. How great a blog he has, how much knowledge he has, uh, particularly with the Pen F and all OM System Olympus cameras for that matter. But he has one of the most in-depth uh, blogs about using the color science, the color wheel on the Pen F, and by extension, the Pen EP7 or whatever, and the uh, Pen F and the OM3, because they all use the same color wheel, same features. I swear to God, if I don't find the bookmark like in 5 seconds, I'm going to be pissed. So I'm going to go into my photo thing. It should be right at the top because every time, bang. I'm going to put this link out here. I cannot promote this blog enough. Uh, if you want to learn, now granted, And I don't know why things he writes are controversial sometimes and people strongly disagree. I have no idea why. Okay. But everything I've ever read in his blog, and I've read a lot, I've had no problem with, everything on that blog. Um, and he has so many articles, and he does his due diligence on everything, even quoting my stuff sometimes. I don't know why. I do okay. All right. I appreciate, all the kind feedback and things, and everyone that watches my channel likes the things that I do. But I don't hold a candle to people like Siegfried here when it comes to doing the due diligence and the work to really appreciate and use the features in the cameras. Uh, so definitely, if you guys haven't yet, definitely check out his blog um, for anything Olympus Home System related. And at Rob Trek, Panasonic has primed at 1824. Ooh, wow. So yeah, so I would go 35, 50, and 100 like that. I mean, no, hands, yeah, definitely the 100 macro. Because the S1R has in-camera stacking. At least S1R Mark 1 did. S1R Mark 2 has got to have it. If it doesn't, it's okay. But the macro lens you can use for portraits if you want, instead of the 85. 85 is a little bit too niche for just really portraits, right? And it's not long enough for a lot of stuff, and it's too long for a lot of stuff. It's really for portraits and event photographers. I'd rather have a 35, 50, and 100. But thanks for that. What fanny pack is that one that you use with the OM3? I don't think it's available. I paid like $3 for it because I do my Tuesday shopping stream. I didn't do one this week because I was too messed up in the head, but I do a shopping stream every Tuesday. Let me see if it's still available. Uh, where's my Amazon page? So I'm going to go to my orders page, just type in the word bag, and I have 10 pages of orders just on bags. Uh, how about the word sling? No, what is that? No. Okay, I'm getting close. Here it is. So it's this one no longer available. Uh, I think I paid $3 for it. Let me see. Um, yeah, $3, $3.49. And then Prel. Prel is awesome. It's the best shampoo ever. Prel. Okay, sorry about that. It's not available. But just check out my Tuesday live streams. Either watch them live or after the fact. I almost always have a deal for fanny, 'cause the belt I have tucked in here. You can tuck the belt in. You can wear it as a sling, or you can wear it around your waist. I just have it ready to go like this. I take it in my car. Then when I get in the field, I take the strap out. So I got a secondhand, barely used the M1 Mark II. Wow, for 800 bucks, including tax. It's a lot of camera. Yes. And I'm gonna have to wrap it up here soon. I'm going out to lunch with Walter and his wife. Uh, I got a Leica Q3. No, oh, Q3. Sorry, my mistake. Bought it cash in Arlington's Insta camera, so you can imagine how many hundreds were on the counter. Wow. Oh my God, I had somebody owe me money and they paid me in coins. Where's the coin box? I already put it away. I got a box of coins, weighed 100 pounds. Anyway, but I still want a Deluxe 8. It's beautiful and won't feel as sketched out to bring the Q3. It's almost not worth the Q3, to be honest, because it's a cash billboard. Yeah. And Ian says, I don't know if you recall, but I asked you a few weeks ago about which rig to give to a 12-year-old. I gave her my EM1 Mark II and she's off to the race. Awesome. I do remember you asking that. I can't remember if it was an email or in the live stream, but I do remember you asked me that. So, one last question here, and then I really have to go. Which flash should I use for my Canon 3000D? Uh, easy, 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 easy. If you're just getting started, you're on a budget. Okay, I assume that's why you're using a 3000D. I think that's Canon 3000D. That's a T7. All right. Uh, let me go here. I'm gonna give you something budget friendly, but very versatile and cheap. This one, 36.99. Uh, there's one other flash. I'm gonna give you two options, okay? The other one is $10 more, but it's a little bit more versatile. Um, Probably have to go to my flash page. One second. Ugh, it may not be available anymore. Let me do a quick search. Hmm, that one's gone up in price. Here we go. All right, so this one has a trigger so you can use it off camera. So it's $10 more to get the trigger. It's cheaper than trying to buy a trigger separately, but this will be the way to go. Uh, so I'm gonna give you my affiliate links for both, okay? So that's one. That's the one with the trigger. And then the one without a trigger, if your budget's very, very tight. I'm making an assumption here. I'm not being judgmental or anything. A little bit because if you have a T7, I imagine you're on a budget and just getting started. Uh, and this is the other one. So, Rom, those are manual only flashes. Either one is fine. have about the same power output, but one, you have the option to use off camera, which I highly recommend you go off camera. These are short-term investments. Long-term, if you have the budget, uh, say $100, then I would say go to one of the Godox or Neewer flashes. Neewer, it's spelled Neewer, but it's pronounced Newer. So I'm going to say Neewer just for it's easier to say or distinguish between just saying this is a newer flash. But because then you get a broader compatibility with using multiple flashes and controlling individual groups, and it's there's you can if you really get into flash photography, it's okay. You can still if you're a more advanced photographer, I would probably steer you towards the higher end flashes. But I would start with these two flashes. These are the kind of flashes that manual only, so you're going to have to learn how to shoot in manual mode with flash using manual power. But that's the best way to learn flash is like that. I just tutored a class with people that were using Sony A7R5 and Godox V100s. I mean, thousands of dollars in gear. And I taught them all in full manual. Okay. And because that's just the way to do it. So it's good to start with an all manual flash and not rely on TTL. TTL is good for event photography and things like that. But that aside, okay. So hopefully that's helpful. And uh, and then just quickly answer this: what do I prefer for focus? Autofocus. I always prefer autofocus. And I'm trying to know when does professional photographer pick manual focus over auto? Typically for video. A lot of video they like to use manual focus because autofocus is so unreliable and unpredictable. Even if it's reliable, you don't want to have the video to go out of focus. So there's certain predictability part too. But typically for video, for photography, manual focus is when they like to uh, like a lot of landscape photographers use manual focus because autofocus can be off just a tiny bit sometimes. So they'll punch in, manually focus on exactly what they want. Because in landscape photography, there's a lot of things for the camera to focus on, and it may focus on the wrong thing, right? Because there's no subject detect for tree or bush or flower. You know what I mean? And even if you pick a single pinpoint focus, sometimes there might be a leaf in front. Sometimes, the bark is thick. So landscape photography is very common, manual focus. Other than that, I can't think of too many situations anymore. So uh, Linda says my very old LX3 makes better photos than those toy cams, and yeah, the LX3, LX5, awesome little cameras. LX5 a little better in my opinion, but either way, you can't go wrong with the original Panasonic LX cameras. Fits right in a shirt pocket, literally. So thanks everyone for joining me today. If you like these streams, consider supporting me through the links below, my affiliate links, donations, buy me a coffee, all that good stuff. Become a member for 99 cents a month. It's all greatly appreciated. I had a lot of fun talking to you guys today. I need to run because I'm running late as it is to go have lunch. But you guys have been great. Also, link down below if you'd like to support Ben's family after his passing. Um, anything helps, a dollar, all of that stuff. So you guys have a super, super week. Eat healthy, exercise. I want you all to be here together with me a long time. So thanks for joining me today, and I hope to see you again soon.